2, 1. Boost ignition and liftoff. And all systems are go.
Welcome to the Lesbo and The Bean universe. Lesbo and The Bean. LaTB, LaTB, where mixed martial arts and the UFC get silly. Big silly. Buckle up and move your tray tables to their upright position. And please, somebody shut that baby up. It's time for Lesbo and The Bean.
Welcome back. Episode 124. Calgary in the books. 13 fights went down. It was a fun one. If you're listening to LaTB, you're making some green. How did your missed event go? For the first time in a long time, Lesbo had to not partake. And she had to go and crash.
I watched the fights up until the end of... I didn't see after Nina Marcos. I did not see that Nina won the fight, but I knew she did when I left the hotel room.
She was winning.
Yeah, I knew she had that.
Yep.
I knew she had it when I left the hotel room to go to the event. And then I kind of went and looked on my Tapology as the concert went on. And I went to Dave Matthews, took the wife, and went with my brother and his girl to see Dave Matthews last night. And so I missed a great fight card. A lot of...
It was a fun one.
Quick finishes. And a lot of things I wish I didn't look up. I wish I would have had a media blackout because they were so exciting that it would have been worth it.
To all just catch up later sequentially and instead of breaking it apart. But from the bottom of the top, we did have Devin
I drove
Powell.
home, and then when I got home at like 2 a.m. or whatever, I watched the fights. And
nice.
I could watch
and you didn't have to wait 6 hours. You were able to
I
watch
could
it all in
quick,
an hour.
Quick.
How nice was that? It did get a little grueling due to the Fox airing and the quick finishes we had throughout the night. There was definitely 25 minutes that I had to fill all of a sudden because I knew it was going to be that 30-minute increments. One of those early finishes started off with Devin Powell. Most people had it going that way against Herrera. Both of these guys being so low caliber. I like Devin Powell, but I don't think he beats too many other people in there. He tends to be a punching bag against most other opponents. It's just Herrera was
Another
not
thing
good.
real quick.
Yes.
I had a night, for me, I feel like I didn't have a great night. Still did comfortably over 50%. You, however, had a great night.
I had a good night on the bets.
I picked a lot of weird fights. This is one of the ones I obviously got wrong.
There was a few upsets.
I didn't have it
definitely
anywhere, but I only played 3 cards on DraftKings.
And did you cash on those 3 cards?
I did awful.
Oh, I ended up definitely cashing a good amount.
It was really not great night for me. Yeah, I bet. If you followed The Bean last week, it was a good DraftKings night for you.
The more important thing is to follow Lesbo and The Bean so that you can follow whoever you want on any given night. Mix it and match it. A lot of our picks seems to do well for me because I will listen to our show afterwards and be like, Lesbo had some good points there. And it did pay off for me overall
I saw
on my
some of
betting
your
nights.
switches over the night where after I looked at the whole night and compared them, I was like, he made the right switch. Well, the ones you switched were right.
Yep.
And I will even say I didn't go back at my card, and anything I questioned that I would have switched, there's another one that I would have switched to and got wrong. So I feel like I evened out.
Canceled out. So Powell gonna be really close. He shouldn't be a favorite in too many other fights of his. He finished the guy who doesn't deserve him to be in the UFC right now. It was too quick to really get a good gauge of Powell as well, but he can go to decision with a lot of guys. Where do you go with either one of these fighters?
Powell, I don't know. Maybe this spot again on the next card. Maybe the second fight up.
Actually, not a bad call at all. For the second fight of the night, we had Nina Ansaroff versus Ronda Marcos, winning a decision, Taekwondo style, keeping it on the outside. Those takedowns didn't come about for Ronda, and again, that was the game plan. If Ronda was able to get the takedown or get her to the ground, she would have won this fight. It just didn't happen, and what is there left to be said? I don't think either one looked absolutely amazing in there, and these are the top. Are these the top in the 115 division? Are they in the top 10?
I was thinking they almost set it up and I think it's another weird thing that if you're looking at the top of a lot of these divisions, it's a lot out of American Top Team. And so now all these women are going to run into each other again. I think we might see Nina versus Tisha in a future. I think it sets it up for that kind of.
Oh, I could totally see that. But Asnaroff is now with Amanda. Where are they? They're
American
somewhere
Top
else?
Team.
Did they stay at American Top Team?
I think they're still at American Top Team.
I think you're right. I think I'm getting it confused with all of the other couple
I
dumps in that
know.
weight class.
And
they're all
everybody
35,
has
15.
fought at American Top Team and
Yes.
left. So you're like, are they the ones that have left? Are they? No,
where are they?
it's the other two.
But is it also, they're all like 125, 135, and 115? Like they all, one partner is in one of those?
Well, yeah, you don't want to be in the same weight class.
I would agree with that.
That's gay.
That is nothing else about it. Nothing else about it. So, big underdog came through on the third fight of the night. We had Dustin Ortiz finishing Matthew Nicolau in the first round, 3 minutes 50 seconds or 3:49. It was a head kick that had landed throughout the 3 minutes for Dustin Ortiz, and Nicolau actually partially blocked the kick, but it hurt him enough to sit him on his butt, and then Ortiz landed that ground and pound that did put Nicolau out. I mean, he was asleep, and that was a top prospect that just got hushed. Dustin Ortiz.
I think you were pretty dead, right? I don't know if you said finish or not.
I didn't call the finish. I called the decision, but I thought it was going to be...
But you said experience all day.
Yep.
You were like, how is this going to even happen? I don't even see it. And yeah, this is definitely one of the ones that
plus
have
180.
kudos,
Woo,
like
woo.
red flag in this one.
This was a big one. This on my tap.
Yeah, that's what I imagined too. It was so cheap to put
It was
Ortiz
7,000.
on
I put him on everything, or not everything, but a lot, and he was in my winning lineups most of the night. Where do you go with Nicolau in here? A lot of people think he's done. I don't think so. I think he can beat a lot of other guys in there. It's Ortiz, again, makes people look worse than they really, really are.
Yeah.
So there could be money to be made later on Nicolau.
The weird part about this for Nicolau going forward is he doesn't get the time in the octagon with Ortiz to gain the experience, and he doesn't get the thing with Ortiz that you want to practice against, which is this grinding.
The grind.
He gets this weird head kick finish.
Dustin Ortiz now finished Hector Sandoval in 13 seconds, and Nicolau, two hype prospects, and he has it. I mean, Dustin Ortiz was a decisionator. He's only gotten like 3 finishes ever, 2 being the last 2 in the last 3 fights. So something's turning around for Dustin Ortiz. He's putting it all together and is now 32, 31 years old. Range. Fun to see where he goes. Definitely.
Well, he's right in that
5.
sweet spot of his career for
Yep.
his division. The lighter
Peaking.
guys seem to have they lose some of their speed, but they usually
Gain in
figure
experience.
out their fighting style and how to stay in it instead of doing all the things that, being sloppy.
So on to a slot fest. We had Caitlin Chukadian versus Alexis Davis. This one was definitely one that I forgot to put back on TV, and I didn't miss a thing when I ended up replaying it. It went pretty much as I feel like
oh
we called
shit, it went to Fox.
It was Chukadian staying on the outside. Takedowns not coming up for Davis. Davis just looking a bit slower. It's her first fight back since being a mother, and she's definitely slowed down all the way around, as we kind of foresaw here. And Chukadian is going to be really matchup dependent as well, because again, she likes to kiosk, stay away, and just out-volume you without landing a lot of strikes.
Point fight
Without landing points, though, because she, again, is hitting that person that's an inch in front of you. She doesn't put it on the chin.
Point fight.
So, Chukadian...
Yeah, she's getting a lot of hate. I'm noticing that out there.
It's Holly Holm-esque with less accuracy than Holly Holm.
Without being really dynamic.
Exactly. So hard to watch. It's a tough one to watch in there with either of them. I'm going to be tentative on both of them. I like Chukadian's takedown defense in there, but it was against Davis again. Then we had Medeski win a decision over Ross Pearson. Medeski really used his taekwondo really well. Used a good jab. Picked apart Ross Pearson. I'm fading both of these guys. It was gun to the head. Who am I going to pick? I had Pearson. It didn't come through. I believe you had Medeski on this decision, the favorite.
Yes.
And I don't like either one going forward. I think that's a comment against most other people. I'm trying to fade Medeski. I've tried his whole career to fade him, and it worked out. Not as much
he
anymore.
was way too expensive to put him anywhere, and you couldn't trust his chin. But I didn't think he looked awful in there. Maybe
Had Ian Kutalaba versus Antigulov, this was a big underdog throughout the night for everyone. We both had Antigulov on this, thinking that his experience in grinding tactic was actually going to wear out Kutalaba.
This is one, though. I felt like you picked Kutalaba on air and then you switched.
Yes.
And this is one that, listening back, I was like, oh.
We were 100% right on this fight, though. Antigulov went for the takedown, single, double leg from the first second of the first round, all the way until the last minute. You could see Antigulov starting to slow down a bit, and so was Kutalaba. Kutalaba, though, kept getting up. Re-takedown after that, but Antigulov slowed down way more than I liked. The finishes came when Kutalaba, as we said, this guy's going to gas, but if he has the power to be able to knock out a lot of guys in there, and it showed. What I really took away from it is that we were 100% spot on with Kutalaba. He's getting better at getting back to his feet, which is going to be good for anything. But at that end of the first round, Kutalaba couldn't even stand up. He was on the cage, gassed, all that he could be. So another fighter, not Antigulov, with a gas tank that can grind him. Think of a No Time Anderson in there, or Corey Anderson in there.
Did he call out Daniel Cormier afterward?
He'd get eaten a fucking live by Daniel Cormier. With that grind, he couldn't. Kutalaba barely had anything left at the end of the first.
Can everyone, unless your name's fucking Brock Lesnar or motherfucking John Bones Jones, stop wasting mic time with calling out Daniel Cormier.
That's a great call. That's a great call.
Piece of fucking advice. Like, it's so worthless. Daniel Cormier has become the Michael Bisping of you know how Michael Bisping, he was untouchable at the last, you could tell that last year of his career where crazy people were calling him out. And even the last 2 months of his career, we saw somebody just fight. Brad Tavares went backstage. Michael Bisping, let's fight.
Yeah.
Come on, Brad Tavares. I love you, dude. And shout out to Michael Bisping, looking handsome as a motherfucker with his eye fixed.
Good for him.
Have you seen it?
I have not paid enough attention to see that whether it looked at me.
You should
right
look it
on
up. He looks handsome AF.
So
He has
much
his
better.
eye fixed. He is ready for movie roles. Villain.
Good for him. He is the perfect villain. For
He
sure.
is perfect. Michael Bisping!
Bisping, I love you! So Antigulov, also with that lacking gas tank, that grind and submission attack, though, can beat very matchup-specific guys. Heavy hitters that can stop some of that. Good wrestlers, American wrestlers. Antigulov, I'm going to stay away from.
So what weight class are they? I'm sorry.
205.
205. They're both young guys. I think they were both the right matchup for each other to go in and train those things and come back better fighters.
Younger guys, Antigulov, I believe, says he's 31, 32, but I have seen many sources.
He was younger than that. Oh my God, he looks like a big old baby. No Albini, but...
From other sources that I gathered from, a lot of people are like, he has one of those Russian birth certificates. One of those Yo Romero birth certificates.
He's 16.
No, he's probably 43.
64.
Yeah. And I'm 32, let me keep fighting in here because most commissions won't let you keep fighting.
Well, should we run through the card or can I just...
Go for it.
Khabib? Can we talk about Khabib?
Well, I was about to get to Khabib because his cousin was in there, his next
Makhachev.
one.
Okay.
Makhachev against Cajun or Cajun. He doesn't like Raging Cajun. It's Raging Cajun. Johnson, ended up trying to stay away, getting on his bike like we were saying here, but Makhachev cut off the cage, took him down, wrapped up his legs just like Khabib would, and then in his post-fight discussion said, "Give me a Tony Ferguson because I must defend my cousin. Brother. Khabib Nurmagomedov."
He said, I want somebody in the top 10. This weekend, over the weekend, for the first time ever, after I watched Khabib in his press conference, I'm a huge fan of Khabib.
Wow.
Yeah, huge fan.
Wow.
I don't know.
Making a U-turn.
Yeah, I still am a huge... I love Khabib, Tony, Conor, the top of that whole division.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that.
I agree. I've said it from the get-go. I love them all.
I love
all of them.
All of them. But I really love Khabib for It's too much. Tony Ferguson has done nothing to have to take such a big step back, except get an injury, in my opinion.
Correct.
I don't think that's the right move. It doesn't do anything. But fighting Tony Ferguson, fighting Khabib on the first fight back, I don't know is necessarily the smartest thing now.
Yeah, I would agree. There does need to be a little warm-up in there to see what happens.
You know who could be the best warm-up? His cousin. Maybe
Maybe
it is a good fight for Tony to do for a warm-up.
Oh, I think that's too
Or
scary
do
of
you
a fight.
think they learn too much about Tony? But
I
he
think
doesn't
the
do
whole
the same
camp-
game plan twice anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, but I think Tony's earned his spot where he's at, and anyone outside of that belt contender is just, it shouldn't happen. But,
Don't you think, though? I mean, let's be serious. We just saw him beat Cajun Johnson, and he called out Tony Ferguson. If I'm Floyd Mayweather, that's hashtag easy money. Somebody who just beat Cajun Johnson thinks they could beat me? If the
I would
UFC
agree with
wants
that.
to pay me for that, I'll take that fight.
it's really iffy. Lando Venata took a short fight notice and almost got Tony out of there. I would hope Tony learned something
I
from
still
that.
think he can put a 3-month on it.
Yeah. We'll see. There's many
It's
fights in
weird.
that division
I know.
right now. With Khabib, though, it's something I was going to say that you've been spot on this whole time with Khabib, that Alpaca, if you're not following Alpaca on YouTube, you should, because he has good social breakdowns. And he just came out with a really interesting Khabib versus Conor and the whole World Cup incident where Khabib was in the crowd across the stadium while Conor was sitting side with number one Russian oligarch, or whatever you want to call him, President Putin, and how Lesbo has constantly told The Bean that Khabib
Fake
isn't
followers.
that famous.
Hashtag fake followers.
Isn't that famous. And Alpaca Thesaurus is throwing it out. He's like, look at Khabib walking around the streets, not even asked for an autograph. And Conor's walking in with security because he's a global superstar. There is a
Conor
difference.
has like a massive amount of security, and he is like, if you watch, if you know, I know little about culture in certain places, but if you and I met the Queen of England, there is a certain code that we would have to honor to meet her in the room.
Mm-hmm.
If I probably were to meet certain members of the military, there would probably be ways that people, if I were a family member of, like, if my dad were a certain higher up in the military, that I would probably be expected to treat higher up other military members. Like, there's like a royalty code of things. I think Putin, if you see Conor with Putin, he puts his hand on him in a way that is comfort. It's that BDE. It's that big dick energy.
So did you watch the Alpaca Thesaurus breakdown on that? Because
No, I haven't seen it yet.
he specifically talked about hand placement multiple times and how even security shut down Conor, and you can see security was like, and Putin was like, it's not good. He's like,
Putin
we got
loved it.
Yeah, Putin was like,
loved it.
Putin re-grabbed it like, we
And
got it,
think
homie.
about
We got
this
it,
too.
homie.
We talk about this on the show, how big soccer is to a lot of UFC fans.
Yes.
And things like that.
Global sport.
There is soccer going on, the biggest event, and look at Putin with Conor. He is like, he could be with soccer stars, he could be with Ronaldo. I know soccer names that seem like such a big deal that I see all the famous people I care about want to take pictures with them. So, but Putin wanted to take a picture with Conor. I didn't see him spend that kind of time with anybody else.
Agreed.
Conor spent
Agreed.
Trump time with Putin.
Damn. So, if we ever talk about the 155-pound division, it seems to be Tony Ferguson and Conor McGregor are always just ready to be talked about whenever you're around it. Pretty fun. Then we ended up going to Hakeem.
But I would like someone, I think you can do it. What? Lizard! No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's the CIA plant, or it's the Putin plant. Ah! We have been talking about Russia too much.
Yeah,
Russia.
too much. It's
With
the
the
Rachel
Conor-
Maddow mic.
Or is it Connor's team listening in?
I
What's
know, he's got
up?
that real money. I forgot what I was going to say after that. Maybe I should have
Just
stopped
move
talking.
on. Just move on.
Yeah.
Then
that
we
was just
had-
the Makoshev fight.
Hakeem Dawodu decided favor coming in and winning a unanimous decision versus Arnett. This was a 4-1 favorite. Hakeem should have gotten him out of there and really sat back and just picked Arnett apart. Arnett, time to get on out of here. 3 in a row you've lost. It's just they don't keep you guys around, especially at the 145, 150 division where there is so heavy.
After I got home
miss
from
anything.
the concert and I rewatched the fights, this is one I did not.
At 9,400, I believe, for Duadu, he did not impress at all on DraftKings. Like 67 points when he could have finished it at times in there, especially with those leg kicks. And again, he's a little tentative coming off of that loss. It's good game planning in there.
We already talked about it. I am nervous about Nina going forward.
Yeah, we did say that a little
Did we
bit.
skip
Like,
over
yeah,
that fight?
no, we talked about it.
Huh.
We talked about it and just said, hey, she can. There's other people. She didn't fight somebody that was the best in there by any
we
means.
said Tisha's probably her next fight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then Duadu at the 145 pound division right now. Daikesi's at 145. Dayeski, he just lost as well again. I think he's at one. Stevens is too high up.
Yeah, I don't know what he does for me. He has some climbing to do.
He has a lot of fights under him before he looks like some
to
champ.
do, I think, before we really have to match make for him.
Totally. Good call. Then we ended up going to Jordan Mean at 170 pounds versus Alex Morono.
Mean,
the Canadian, ended up taking it to the Texas native. 330-27. This was veteranship at its best. Jordan Mean just showing where he was the better mixed martial artist all the way around. Ended up getting a number of takedowns, placing him over 100 points on DraftKings. If Mean fights with this type of fight IQ in other fights, he'll beat a lot of other people. If he uses those takedowns like he usually doesn't and waits to get a body shot to crumple him, Mean is definitely all of a sudden a top contender in there because Morono is no slouch on the ground. He showed it multiple times, and Mean shut him down decisively multiple times on the ground and standing. I like Jordan Mean from this point on. That chin, though, still a little tentative on that long time chin.
I didn't watch this fight either.
Yeah, you didn't miss too much.
But
it was a
I did
decision.
have the other guy picked, but I didn't really put him anywhere because I didn't.
I actually had Morono on more than I should have due to his price tag, and I should have just I could have had a washout night and just come in with all sorts of Scrooge McDuck money, but this was the fight that set me back into that mid-high placement level. It was that Morono fight. Then we ended up going to the main card, a four-bout main card with Alex Hernandez versus Aban Mercier, the Canadian gangster, ended up getting defeated in a 3-round decision. 100% loved it. I thought, though, that the power of Hernandez was going to play a bit more of a factor in there, and he did hurt Aban Mercier much as
he was going to finish him.
I thought he was going to finish him, so I was a bit more off. I thought Mercier, again, was going to back off after he felt that power, and it didn't happen, but the gas tank for Hernandez, I did say, I've seen Hernandez go 3 rounds in other fights at a high pace, and I know it's not UFC caliber, but people, if you think he's going to gas, I don't see it as much as other guys. Hernandez looked good everywhere.
I think I just had a Mercier decision, but I did have him on a few cards.
And Hernandez, all of a sudden, is immediate injection into the top 15. He's asking for a top 10 after this. I mean, he's beat Dariush, who was like a 9. Now Mercier, who's like a 13. So I think he's in that like 11,
what
10
are they,
spot.
155?
155 pounds for those young.
Who did we just talk about? Somebody else needs a fight he needs to fight the Russian. Yeah, that's perfect.
Ooh, that is a really
10 and
good
11
fight.
against each other, same heel time because they just got off fights at the same time. Perfect.
That is a good fight.
Perfect.
I like that. Hernandez
and I love
making
seeing
noise.
guys fight that it should be. 10 and 11 should be fighting. It shouldn't be 12 fighting number 4 for the title. Let's be real, everyone.
Totally.
I mean, we'll talk about Khabib later, but let's be real.
So, with Hernandez, really loved his fight IQ. We saw him go the distance against a very dangerous TriStar opponent, up-and-comer. So, I really like Hernandez from this point on. I think he can put game plans together against the top 10 guys and implement them because that's what he had to do to win this fight, and he did it with flying colors.
I think so, too.
Where Mercier wins a lot of other fights. He's still a top 15 guy. I don't think Mercier, like Dariush, falls out of that top 15.
Yeah, he's kind of at the stunting place for me, though, because Mercier has been at a lot heavier weight classes, and he can't go much lower.
No.
So
he's
if
not
he
moving
doesn't
that.
have the power at 155, where does he go from here?
Is it a TriStar change? We had Ronda Marcos coming up short from TriStar. We had a
Maybe
few other
he
fighters.
does need to change camps. Maybe he needs to go to a more striking-centric camp and work on his boxing. Maybe he needs to go to, like, Eddie Alvarez's and... But you know what I don't like about Eddie Alvarez's camp?
What is that?
And I'll talk about it because I didn't change my card ahead of time, and I think I text you and said, is that a fucking black eye? Does Eddie have a fucking black eye? And I think they spar too hard. I think there's something's going on at their camp, or maybe they're sparring too hard, and it's making them...
That's always a speculation in those camps, and it's whether you believe it or not. I mean, it's tough. Some people think you have to get hit in order to know what it feels like to come back, and other people say, no, you're taking away from that potential. We don't know. We don't, after, you would think that we would know after all this time, but there's fighters in boxing that used to get hit more than anybody and are clear as a whistle at 65, and then you've seen other guys that didn't really have one hard match and can barely talk. Everybody wears it differently. Everybody...
Well, even if
It's
you
just
might
weird.
get knocked out, let's say 3 weeks ago, and you have a fucking beaner, you broke your nose, you got to stay away from the cameras and hide.
Did you say beaner?
You're all busted up and shit. You let it heal. You have this little tiny bit that Eddie had where both his eyes kind of look blackened, but
Yep.
one of them definitely more. And everyone's like, well, why would you do that and take the chance of a loss? I don't know how much Eddie's making to win and show right now, but I'm sure it's well worth it. And he risked fighting on the end of his contract. We can talk about it when we get there.
Totally. So, then we had a potential co-main event of the night. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, champion herself,
These
coming
next
in
three
against
fights could all be
main events. Easy. Against Tisha Torres. This ended up going to decision. Most people saw it as a decision, and it was just seeing a better striker go in there. I like what I saw from Tisha Torres, but she fought up to Joanna's potential instead of fighting to her own, which Tisha Torres tends to do. She gets in these split decision fights because she always just fights at the level of her opponents and never does her own thing. And she was moved forward at times in there, but it's JJ champion, baby. What you gonna do?
I love what Joanna's doing with I am the real queen of the strawweight division.
With or without the belt.
I
With
love
or without
it.
the
It's like
belt.
her, she gets the wrestling aspect of it, and I dig that entertainment thing. I feel like I said it about Tisha on the last broadcast, and I feel the exact same way watching this whole fight. She is your champion of your 105. She is in a wrong weight class. Her height is not conducive anymore. I'm watching her lose fights, not from technique, not because she can't do all this stuff. She's too small for the weight class.
I actually
I know
thought she
her
looked
body-
more muscular than ever.
I know, but I feel like I don't know if that's great. I
Yeah,
think
right.
I've seen her
Diminishing
in
returns.
past-
Same as Joanna, because
Yes.
she said it herself this fight. She said she was too muscular for those other ones where she took her
Yeah, and
nutrition
you
back
see
into
her
this game.
like she's tiny.
She's back to that broomstick weight.
Yeah.
But Wicked Witch of the West knows her body type. She knows that she works better.
But that's where I feel like Tisha, if you look at her, she could have a smaller fight. She has put on a lot more muscle to fill in that weight. But I don't think the height is... I'm watching her in fights after fights, and especially when Joanna's at the top, Andrade is at the top. I don't know if it's possible for her to lose 10 pounds because she has a short little frame.
Yep.
I don't even know if it's possible at this point. It would have to be a long haul, like over the next year. But the UFC is going to build a weight class around her. I think she is a star to build a weight class around.
I
love
it.
everything the Tiny Tornado's given us. And it just makes me irritate. She's not going to beat Rose. She's not going to beat Joanna. And she's not going to beat Andrade. And it's not because she doesn't have the fucking talent to do so.
Agreed.
It's just because she doesn't have the height. It makes me irritated.
It's
It
whole.
sucks.
Well, is it also a bit of John Jones, DC? If John Jones is there, DC ain't champion. But he ain't.
But this is the thing. If John Jones is yacked out of his mind on some performance-enhancing drug and DC isn't, then that's equally not as fair as...
Yeah,
we
good
don't
point.
know. We still
Good
don't
point.
know. If John Jones has only tested clean one fight of the last 5, and it's against OSP. We just don't know. We don't know how great John Jones is.
And I think that was like in Europe.
We don't know how great John Jones is. So
Then
I still question if he's the GOAT or not. And I know this is the other thing I have to say about DC, and we'll talk about this shit coming on later in fights. DC is one of the dirtiest fighters in the game.
But everybody is the more and more we look at it.
Yeah.
And I quickly on the other fights that we didn't talk about, I want to say the reffing. Mark motherfucking Goddard made me almost throw something at my TV multiple times.
He's the worst ref in the UFC. I've been calling that out.
It is so bad. Who did he stand up earlier in the night? No, well, we're going to get there. But no, there was one earlier where it got stood up. Maybe it was 2 or 3 times. Oh, it was Hernandez versus Aubin Mercier. Hernandez took down Aubin Mercier 2 or 3 times and ended up calling him without giving him a warning. Even DC and Anik were like, oh, he didn't even get a warning. He just stood him up. He was trying to give Aubin every shot of getting back up off of his back. And that was just one off there. It was such a bad one. The co-main event, we had Jeremy Stevens coming against Jose Aldo. I ended up wrong on this one. I had Stevens kind of heavy as well. He was as bad as my Morono pick, where Aldo is still a top level contender.
A little early.
This Goddard was in it as well, was he not?
I think he might have been. I think he might have been a little early.
Even Jeremy Stevens, as soon as, because he was grabbing the wrist.
Let's talk about Tisha and Joanna. Let's finish that fight up. What's Joanna do from here? Do you think she gets the Rose fight again?
No, she's got to beat a couple other people.
So Rose beats Andrade. Rose should fight Andrade next.
Yes.
And Joanna fights
Suarez. Titiana Suarez.
That's a real dangerous fight for both ladies.
For both ladies, and that's the number one. She beats Suarez, Barnes beats her. That's the number one after Andrade.
I like that fight. I don't know if it's too big of a step up, but I like that fight.
It makes you think.
I like that fight.
So that's where we go with either one. Tisha, keep grinding. She's going to be in here for a long, long time. Yeah. She can beat a lot of other ladies. Then we had, again, potential early stoppage with Jose Aldo landing a delicious body shot, crumpling Jeremy Stevens to that liver. And then coming up, Jeremy Stevens immediately falling over, ground and pound. Jeremy Stevens rolled over with the wrist tucked and was getting hit but blocking with his hand, and he got it called as soon as...
this side totally covered.
And he had Jose Aldo's wrist tucked. It's a fat man roll. Yeah. Kevin Gastelum does it all the time. Yeah. It's a level of control.
Yeah.
You can use it to sweep eventually, but he was just stopping to get hit. Exactly.
He was recovering, and it probably, if... he could have taken 10 seconds to 12 seconds of punches and grabbed the other arm for 10 seconds and rolled another way for another 10 seconds. He would have recovered, and we would have gotten to see a fight of all time.
Yep.
But I feel like Mark Goddard... I think it was Mark Goddard, wasn't it?
I think it was.
I don't know. I could just blame
everything on the night.
Forward. Yes. It might not have been at all. It might not have been at all.
Talking about a fight of the night, though, it was a contender for fight of the night in those first few minutes of this fight. It only ended up going a full, how many seconds here? It only ended up going 4 minutes. Jeremy Stevens was getting respect from Aldo in the exchanges. They were both...
He hurt.
They were both getting hurt. Jeremy Stevens had a nasty cut under his eye.
I felt was so proven in the fight was that Jose Aldo can't take a fucking dead-on punch from a 155er, but he can all day from a true 145er like Jeremy Stevens. He took some brutal headshots, some brutal hooks, some brutal uppercuts. Aldo just walked right through these shots that I thought he was going to be out. I thought Jeremy was getting the better of him in the early 2 minutes of the exchanges. He was throwing leg kick for leg kick. I thought he was landing some crazy headshots. It was insane. I was impressed with Jeremy Stevens. And Jose Aldo just walked forward. He didn't even give a shit. He was like a Terminator. And I haven't gotten to see that Jose Aldo yet. Since I've been watching the UFC, Jose Aldo's been losing. I saw him on the tail end of the Asada run.
Aldo is still a top. And we had hesitation on him talking about his camp leaving, Onovo Niao, all those issues, and none of that really showed up too late, but it was such so early in the first round. This didn't go to 3 or 5 rounds that I don't know if there's too many other people, though, that I would really pick against Jose Aldo. Jeremy Stevens is one of those top guys. Cub Swanson, think about that. You got Aldo all day.
And I still think Jeremy Stevens is so dangerous, and that is a weird shot that he took. It was hard. It was one of the hardest body shots I've ever heard.
Beautiful, gorgeous body shot.
Like,
absolutely
I just
brutal.
felt like his liver went...
Yeah.
Like it just fragmented.
Yeah. I bet you...
Like shattered
I
glass.
wonder, here, LaTB Conspiracy, if you could detoxify your liver by
an
fucking
Aldo
punching it.
kick.
Yeah. I think it's that whole MMA commercial where they're punching the motherfucking rug. They're getting the dust off of it. They just knock some of the dust off of your liver there.
It bummed me out a little bit. I had Aldo on that fight, and I actually saw it to go to decision. I thought Jeremy wouldn't get knocked out. I think I had it to go to decision.
I had to finish Jeremy Stevens round number 1. I was so wrong on this one.
This was like 114 points or something. This was a good pick on my DraftKings cards. The one that cost most of my night was the next fight. But Jose Aldo, this is crazy. I don't know. Max Holloway is apparently cleared to fight. Dana says he wants to take a minute before he books another Max Holloway fight.
Smart.
Let Max heal a little extra time. I still say I don't think we see Max fight at 145 again. He's going to have to relinquish this title. I still think you could see Jose Aldo wear that belt again, and I didn't like how he got it the second time around. Like after that weird Connor thing and all that. I still think he could have a shot in the division if Max Holloway's not in it. And he said he would fight who next? Ortega. And I think that's a fun fight.
That's a scary fight for Ortega, for sure.
It is so intriguing to me. I think that's the fight that almost Ortega needs to do anyway before he ever sold
Ortega ain't going to take that. He has a guaranteed title shot right now, and he's already been told if he waits, he'll have it. He's not going to.
I don't think there is any guarantees in the UFC. Ask Colby Covington.
Ooh, good point. So we were iffy about whether that Till T-Wood fight was on the books officially. It has been registered. It is Till versus T-Wood. Colby Covington interim belt. Don't mean shit, homie. Ask Tony Ferguson about that real quick.
Yeah, for real.
So you make a very solid point there.
Yeah, I think there
definitely
isn't any guarantees. I think Jose Aldo Ortega is almost the next fight to make.
I love it.
And it's a better proving ground. I don't think you want to feed Ortega. If I'm the UFC, I have dollar signs all over Brian Ortega. You know Jose Aldo's guaranteed dollar signs. I think you have to make Brian Ortega do what every fighter has to do, and we call it fight in Brazil. I think you have him fight Jose Aldo in Brazil, main event, boom, and then winner of that obviously gets Max again if Max is ready to go down to 145.
I love it.
Because I would rather Max heal more too. As much as I love him, I would rather him take a little extra time. He looked weird to me in there, whether it was concussions, pressure, whatever was going on. I want a very long career out of Max Holloway because I do think he could be the potential GOAT. I think that is your potential GOAT, but he needs the long career to prove it. So, anyway.
On to the main event. We go. Dustin Poirier, Eddie Alvarez, number 2. If you ever thought that knee was iffy and it wasn't intentional on that first fight, Eddie Alvarez tried everything in the book to get Dustin Poirier out of there. This time, I saw fence grabs. I saw 12-6 elbows. I saw Mark Goddard getting the fuck in there and getting some shit all fucked up. I already
have to disagree. Fence grab, yeah. Sometimes that happens.
12-6 elbow?
12-6 elbow, not elbows.
Elbow? It's still a legal shot.
I thought it was 12-6 elbow you weren't allowed to do to the head.
No, anywhere. It's an illegal shot.
Oh.
Exactly. I didn't make the rules. But you can't, because you're going to fucking chop someone in half with that somehow. Because they saw coconuts being broken. Karate, Joe Rogan tells the same story over and over again. But
I thought it was 12-6 to the head or 12-6 to the back of the head. I thought you
anything back of the head.
I thought you could elbow. Like, what about if I was doing this on your belly
or your butt cheeks? Yeah. I feel like guys have been told can't 12-6 for
and this is the other thing too. He didn't do it that it was a pair. Like, it could have been a warning. It shouldn't have been a stand-up. It was weird.
Mark motherfucker got her. For sure was in there.
And he didn't see the fence grab. And the only reason that the fence...
But there was multiple fence grabs. There was one really blatant one, but there was other ones where you saw Goddard getting in there and being like, let go. Right when that guillotine was getting put on by Poirier up on the cage, Alvarez...
Yeah, I think it definitely
happened?
is school of the wrestlers, too. I think the wrestlers, like the DC school of, like...
You're trying to win.
The hand in the ear.
Oh, yeah. Or the fish hook Brian Caraway threw in there.
Or the checking the oil.
Yeah.
That's all dirty wrestling.
You trying to win. You trying to win. Hey, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And it's a damn DC with a towel grab. If you get away with it, you get away with it.
Yeah.
The paycheck is sent at the end of the motherfucking day. A warning is a warning.
Well, that's exactly what Dustin said in the post-fight.
Good call.
Like,
It is what it
my
is.
check. I still got my check at the end of the day. Still get to go home to my family at the end of the day. When I hear Dustin Poirier talk, he sounds like a kid trying to talk in his big, deep guy voice. Like, he still sounds like he's trying to drop his voice down an octave when he talks. Like, it sounds like something not relaxed about the way he talks. And I'm like, dude, just chillax here. Anytime I see him, it's every time. It's not before a fight, after. It's every single time I ever watch him. I'm just like, Dustin, relax. I don't think that's his real voice.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I've never really thought about it. Yeah. How did you like the fight? It was a war of the ages while it lasted. Both of these guys were going back and forth. Leg kicks didn't play a role too much for Eddie, even though Justin Gaethje
I'm
and
glad it
everyone
wasn't
said
stopped
kicks.
at the 12-6 elbow.
Agreed.
Which is a normal Goddard thing. Let's just stop the whole fight and say that
DQ.
Dustin won. So I'm glad it wasn't stopped. It was just stood up. And then I think it was legitimately Eddie was hurt AF. I would be willing to say, though, he was equally as hurt in the first fight, and it wasn't stopped yet. Like, I still think it was stopped a little too soon.
I really
For
like
an Eddie Alvarez fight, I thought it was stopped a little too prematurely.
it could have been. We see Eddie in all these spots nonstop.
I'm glad Dustin won. I don't know what they do now. I feel like he's in a holding pattern, which sucks. You know what? Why don't you do Dustin Poirier versus Ferguson? If the Conor Khabib's going to happen, why don't you just do Dustin Ferguson?
I like that fight. Are they at 55 or 45?
55. Eddie's the underground.
Oh, that is
champ.
true. That is a really fun one. I mean, these guys are in the top 3 and 4. They were in 3 and 4 spot only to
And I don't know
Khabib,
what
Tony,
Eddie
and
does
Conor.
from here.
I mean, not back of the line, but he's in that top 10 still easy. He lost to the number 3 or 4th guy. I mean, he doesn't move too much further down the line.
Barboza?
Anybody in the top 10?
Edson?
Anybody, you're going to still get
Edson, Eddie?
quality TV when you get Eddie Alvarez in there.
Always.
Always.
But I wouldn't mind if Eddie took like 9 months off.
Yes,
Like a good
agreed.
amount of time.
Even
He's been
Poirier,
in some war.
2 months ago, Justin Gaethje. I was really thinking Eddie Alvarez because even Eddie said it. He talked to Gaethje and Gaethje said, "Kick that leg, and there was maybe 1 or 2 leg kicks, and it was actually Poirier throwing the leg kicks more so out of that fight than anybody. It was a brutal fight. I loved every second out of it. It was a fun fight night.
Awesome dance partners.
Definitely.
I wanted both guys to win. I wanted everyone to win. All three of the top 3 fights. I
we
wanted everyone to win.
We all won. That was a great fight night. Definitely a fun free one on Fox. We got a weekend coming up. Another breakdown on the way. Is it pay-per-view 225? No. 226?
7. It's TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt.
Garbrandt.
And also
himself.
Mighty Mouse versus Cejudo. So this whole fight is called 2 because they both fought each other already once.
Oh, and not because those are the only 2 fights you care about, and everything else is the big number 2. It's not that.
Those are the only 2 fights you care about. We'll make our own poster for it. That'll be the front of our thing when we break it down. The only 2 fights you care about.
No, there's definitely some money to be made. There's other good ones on there. Any last Twitterverse stuff? Any good gossip going on the MMA verse? We got another fun show coming up later on in the week.
Connor is...
We talked enough about that son of a bitch.
His plea deal and everything.
He got some community service. Those with the fucky ones.
Yeah, and everyone that's saying they're going to fight in October, I already said it. That's bullshit. They're not fighting in Vegas. They'll fight in New York City, Madison Square Garden if they fight at all. Connor will fight, and if that's the case, that card's in November. It's the first week of November. So anyone who's betting out there, I would say that's when the Connor Khabib. And if Khabib isn't as famous as everyone thinks, Connor's going to be fighting Nate or somebody else. He's not going to be fighting Khabib. His people are going to do the research. And anyone who's like, oh, it'll be the biggest fight ever. Shut the fuck up. Whatever fight Connor does next will be the biggest UFC fight ever. Whatever one he decides to do next will be the biggest UFC fight
I would agree
ever.
with that easy. I think that's a great call.
So the Bean says, Connor, your dick's a 4.5 at best.
That photo, you see it, look at the feng shui chart that I put on there. You can see low and to the left, bad feng shui, not good for the aura.
This is at best.
At best.
The Irish are a proud people. I don't know. Yeah, so we'll be here again on Wednesday, and thanks for listening.
Lesbo and The Bean.
Thanks for listening to LaTB. For all things Lesbo and The Bean, head over to lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.